All systems go. Clear for liftoff. What's up, everyone? Tamboline here, a.k.a. ToeTagginTambo, back for a special Monday Night Football two-game slate. We're going to break down the two-gamer over on DraftKings. FanDuel's covering it as well, and we'll also break down the featured showdown game, the Commanders at Bengals. The second game starts about 45 minutes after the two-game slate locks, so talk through strategy, some of the game-by-game stuff, the ownership, the lineup construction, all of the stuff that you guys want to know. Hoop is back in the booth here with us. Scarface, nice job filling in yesterday, and Title back with me here as always. Hoop, bring you in first. You had a nice little getaway there. I got the sneaky behind the scenes. People out there might not have Hoopster on Snapchat. It's a real vibe. You got to get the snaps from Hoopster.
Yeah, I don't use Snapchat a ton, but yesterday definitely warranted it. Real cool experience at the Lions game. Had I don't know, they have these little suites basically on the field, like in one of the end zones. Food and drinks and all that. It was a pretty sweet side, basically on the field for the game. So I took some videos. I'll get some of them posted on Twitter as well. But, I put them on Snapchat. It was a very cool experience. Long weekend, paying the price today. I mean, now that hit that 40 number, the bounce back, it's hard. But I did get to meet up with Title. We had a good time at a couple bars, hit the casino, and woke up with $8 in my pocket, which when I went to the casino, I had a lot more than $8. So it was a fun experience. Had a good time, but back to the grind today.
Yeah, we'll get into it, Title. I'll bring you in a sec. But yeah, Gabe Davis, Sean, the first one in, and first thing he mentions, Gabe Davis revenge game. I'm sure that will become popular narrative as the day goes on. But Title, I'll bring you in. We're back at it again, man. Monday Night Football. Week 3's been good, but so far we still got a whole slate, a couple good slates ahead of us here. So what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, what's better than one Monday Night Football game? Grabbing two Monday Night Football games. So you got Showdown if you want to do Showdown. Got the two-game slates. It's actually a good two-game slate. We're talking a little pre-show, but I think you can make a case for all four quarterbacks pretty comfortably, especially when you're comparing them at ownership. So a lot of teams too, like playing Josh Allen. Well, which receivers are going to come along with? You're playing Trevor Lawrence. Which receivers are going to come along with? Which, yes, it makes it hard, but it makes a better chance at a solo shipper up top. And salary, I mean, it's as soft as it gets on pretty much both sides. It's pretty bad out there, which leaving money on the table, always very viable, but yeah, I might need to get Hoop on Snapchat as well. I don't have him, but it was nice to see him. It was nice to see G-Rise this week.
It's a hidden gem out there, the Hoop Snap account, even though I rarely use it, but I put it.
I got Tambo. I got Tambo's once.
I got Tambo too. Once. Yeah, Tambo's I didn't even realize that me and Tambo were friends on Snapchat, and then like his name popped up, I don't know, like a month ago, and I think you were at the lake with the family. I was like,
yeah, every 3 months you get a snap.
Yeah, right. Or when he's at the concert, the Mike concert.
The concert, yeah, the concert.
I was recently living vicariously through Hoop at the Usher concert. He went for his wife, but there was some there was Let It Burn, whatever these songs are that he got. So
Title might not even know Usher.
Hebrew.
What do you mean?
Scared though. I think they're scared because that's going to fill tonight, no problem. That 500K up top is going to fill. I think they're a little bit shook. They didn't want to put a Millie Maker up there, but we'll see. So we'll get into it, and it would not be a two-game or short slate, Hoop, without the Bills. You literally have never seen a 2 or 3 game slate in the world that didn't include Josh Allen, and somebody else just posted it. Yeah, I just said this to Title pre-show, Nades. I said it's literally always that, unless it's the playoffs. And even then, sometimes, most cases, it's that too. So I don't know, Hoop, how do you handle this? Because this is usually Josh Allen's season, but this slate does have a lot of quarterbacks on it that you could use, like Title was saying, and especially if some of them are going to come in lower owned because of that.
I love the sort of dynamic for like the Monday night, the two games. I think there's so much strategy involved, so many ways to go about it. We saw it last year with who won the first big one. It was a Squirrel Patrol, I believe, right? And
Nick Chubb gets hurt.
Yeah, it wasn't a crazy lineup or anything, but he had Chubb. Was it Ford was the backup, whoever it was. But he just had that pivot, left like $3,000 or $4,000 on the table. It was pretty standard lineup. Outside of that, Chubb gets hurt and he solo shipped. So a lot of different ways you can go about building teams. You guys were talking a little bit pre-show. You can definitely make a case for all 4 quarterbacks. I don't know if I'm going to play all 4. There's one that I think fucking sucks, which we'll talk about a little bit, but you can definitely make the case for all 4 if you want, and should be a fun game. And we've got a quarterback that you don't maybe necessarily want to bring a wide receiver along with, and Jaden Daniels can clearly get it done all on the ground. So dynamic, fun slate, and that thing's going to fill for sure. I wish they would have gone with the Millie, but it'll fill, and they'll probably have 4 other secondary similar 150s.
Yeah, do whatever you want. Get aggressive as you want.
That's not a good sign. Volume's out. Yeah, you got to reset over there. Pause. Are you back?
Back.
See, now we got the fix. Just a quick pause and get you back to talking.
And I wasn't even really talking that much. I was just, maybe it's because our worlds collided. It was the Usher experience there. But I do think, I will
say, man, just touch on the Usher thing. It was actually, I'd say, relatively disappointing concert, to be honest with you. He did not sing. It was more like a performance. Like, I think he was out in Vegas, they said, doing the stay out there. And it was more of a dancing thing, I'd say, than singing. He did not sing many songs.
45-year-old Usher did not come through. Wow, surprise.
Shocker.
The guy that we, listened to at 18 and 19 did not come through later on in life.
Yeah,
so, it's interesting. It's almost had a lot like a Diddy party. No Diddy here. Hashtag no Diddy party.
Yeah.
I will say, to Hebrew's point, we do it in Showdown all the time. It's very similar to that. There's so many examples of that on this slate. And if you say, there's no way this can happen. Like Jennings just popped 50 on Ayuk yesterday. It happens every day. It happens every week. Whatever time this NFL is on, you're Brian Thomas, you're Gabe Davis, you can drop that down. You're, Shakir down to Curtis Samuel. These are smaller numbers, but you're Terry McLaurin down to Noah Brown, Jamar Chase down to Higgins. It's just leave the money on the table. And it's literally one guy needs to outdo one guy. And that's how you get different. And everyone say, oh, look, all the chalk still hit. Yeah, everybody's owned on these slates. Almost everybody. You're going to need 1 or 2 leverage spots. And one of the ways to leverage is going to be just to leave the money. Build your best Jamar Chase lineup, leave the money, and put T. Higgins. That's not even that crazy. That's just an example of one way to do it. So, Title, anything else you want to add on 2-game strategy? Because we're going to go into the 2-gamer first.
Yeah, no, a lot of the points you made. I mean, so it's pretty much like a showdown. It's so much more of a showdown than a classic slate with only 2 games. You can't jam, again, salary's pretty loose today on both sides. So just say you leave 1K on the table and you're playing all the chalk. Dude, don't think that's different. You do have to do it, especially in that big contest. So I guess I should circle back quick. Are you playing a 100-man tournament field? Are you playing a 2,000-man field? Are you playing the 88,000 milli or 500K, I believe, is up top, whatever that is.
Half milli.
Half milli. Hey, I'll take a half milli any day right here. That's for sure. So 100-man field, you don't have to be crazy at all. One simple pivot. Like, you don't need to go chase down to Higgins, leave the 1,600 and hope it gets there. You just need to pivot at one, not play a Burrow or a Josh Allen, or there's so many things. Like, you don't need to get crazy at all, I should say. You play Josh Allen with one of his receivers that'll all be relatively low owned, and then leave 500, you're a little different there. 2,000 people, you have to get a little more crazy. The Millie stuff, which I think we're generally going to focus here, everything's in play. Dropping Chase down to Higgins. Tanks Bigsby over ETN, like we just brought up last time. There is some backup running backs outside of really Buffalo, like Jacksonville. ETN and Tank. Tank will play. He got hurt last week. Both of them are going to get opportunities. Zach Moss and Chase Brown, both are going to get opportunities. Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler. So that's an easy way right away. RB2s or something I look at. People, you play Josh Allen, which receiver is it going to be? So many options. Well, they're all relatively going to be low-ish owned because of that. We saw Juju catch a touchdown that yesterday. Why can't it be Mac Hollins again today? And he's on the winner. Tight end. I really think Bretton Strange could outscore Dalton Kincaid today. Kincaid's been awful. With no Evan Ingram, Strange is in a great spot. That's a huge money gap you can leave right there. So little things like that. Defense against your quarterback. It's 2 games. Random stuff happen. People hate to do it. That's how you get to the top there. So pretty much throughout all classic rules, treat it more like a showdown. Make sure your lineup tells a story, though. Don't leave 9,000 be playing Ray Davis, Tank Bigsby, and Chase Brown and fill it out from there. Like, that feels donating. So have to find the happy medium.
Nate's brought that up. I mean, if I get 3 injuries, then I'm going to ship the whole thing outright. There's so many other ways to get different and be unique. on top of it, everything you just mentioned, that you don't have to just go find all these 1%ers that you hope get in because of an injury or something. That's just the way it works out sometimes. But backup running backs get in there anyway. We saw Trey Sermon take one away from Jonathan Taylor yesterday. Like, it'll just happen. And on a 2-game slate, it's worth that much more. So just got to keep that in mind as well. Shout out to our guy, The Realist, won the annual membership yesterday. Hoop wasn't with us, but The Realist got in. And his picture was broke on here. Now it popped up. I thought he was going to get a Ship It Nation logo up there. We were going to say, if you're going to have a broken photo in the chat, you might as well have a Ship It Nation logo up there. But we appreciate you. Welcome to the nation. Hoop, anything else you want to add on the 2-game stuff? If not, we're going to get into the first game here.
The Realist, that's his reward for talking politics with me on Twitter last week. He gets the free membership. No, I agree with a lot of the points that you guys hit on. I mean, it's a very dynamic slate and a lot of different ways to go about it, but just don't do something crazy off the wall just to do it. Like, have it make sense. And again, there's a lot of different plays at every position as you go through the quarterbacks. It's a fun 2-game slate. And I need to hit first to get my money back from the casino trip with a title. Might get even if I can win that 500.
Yeah, 500 would be nice. Like you said, I'll take a $500,000 maker win any day of the week. The setup too. The other thing is also, you still got to tell a story, like Title said. But I think when people hear that, maybe they don't, maybe they do, but I'll throw it out there. They sometimes think, okay, I just watched the review show with Tambo this morning. You build lineups like this. On a 2-gamer, it's a little bit different. The story could be Bills smash, Bengals smash, and you need 6 Bills, 2 Bengals, and a random defense. Like, that's a story still, but not conventional on how you would build your lineup for a 13-game slate on a Sunday on Classic. So just little things like that are certain things that you can look at. Yeah, Eric, we got to tell the people, if you're watching this live, do us a favor, smash the like button. It just takes 2 seconds to hit it. And then keep subscribing. We got, I think, another 60, 70 subscribers just yesterday on one show, basically reminding people that they're probably not subscribed. They watch, it shows up in their videos or their algorithm, and then they forget. And, they just think that they're subscribed, but the shows are just popping up. You got to click subscribe to the channel. That'll get you into a lot of the contests and giveaways and stuff like that. But Hoop, let's get into this 2-game slate. Do you want to go game by game, or do you want to go position and apply it? Like, okay, we know Allen is going to be the guy, but on this slate, we could make a case for these other 3 quarterbacks, or how do you want to do it?
Yeah, I think if we go by positions, and we can kind of talk through it that way. Because really, on this sort of slate, you're looking for like pivots potentially. I mean, you're looking for ways to get a little bit different by pivoting off a certain play. So we'll go by the positions, talk through it, and then, like you said, we'll hit on the showdown slate, which we're just going to hit on like the Commanders and Bengals because that's the main showdown game.
Yeah, we'll hit on that at the end, guys. We'll go through it from a showdown perspective with talking captains, all that stuff as usual. But I like Hoop's call, and Hoop, I'll let you start it off. Josh Allen, usually by far the most popular. What's at least somewhat interesting on this slate is because Burrow stacks can work. Jaden Daniels using his legs, all that stuff looks like there's still going to be some ownership spread out here at quarterback, more than we usually see on a 2-game slate. So what's your thoughts at the quarterback position?
Yeah, I think it does get spread out. I mean, you have Josh Allen priced significantly higher than the second priced quarterback. I mean, Josh Allen is 7,800. Joe Burrow is 63. Then Jaden Daniels is 6K and Lawrence 57. So $300 separation between the rest of them. But Allen down to Burrow is 1,500. Now, is salary a huge factor on the slate? No, I mean, it's just not. There's nothing that's going to prohibit you from making any sort of lineup that you want because we just don't have that the high end price tag. So Josh Allen is very easy to play, but the 1,500 is up. It provides upgrades at different positions. So I do think it's probably pretty spread out between those 3. I mean, somewhere, I don't know, between all 3 of them, probably 25 to 33% or somewhere in that range. I think they're all going to be relatively close. I do think Josh Allen has a chance to maybe get steamed up a little bit just because when people go and start building out their lineups, they'll be like, oh, you know what? I have the salary for Josh Allen. I'll just play him. Yeah. They can play him naked or not naked. It's a 2-game slate. You're probably going to have a pass catcher in there regardless, but you don't have to actively go out there and pair him with any specific guy. So I do think Josh Allen has a chance to go up a little bit when people start to build teams because you got 3 other quarterbacks that are priced pretty close together, so that would potentially spread out their ownership a little bit. But I think Josh Allen gets up, but it's not to the point where it's like, oh, I can't play Josh Allen. I mean, it's a 2-game slate, guys. Like you can play just about anyone. So definitely like Josh Allen. Joe Burrow. I think getting T Higgins back is big. I don't think there's any restrictions. I looked earlier. I didn't see anything. Like, is there any restrictions on T Higgins, or is he just full go?
We don't really know, to be honest.
Yeah. I was trying to dig to see if there's any coach talk about, only playing 80% of snaps or something like that. I couldn't find it, so I'm just going to assume that he's full go, and that's obviously good for Burrow. Jaden Daniels, I think, is an interesting one because, he's looked good fantasy-wise through 2 games, but the pass catchers with him have not worked out. I mean, Terry McLaurin has done nothing this year, and I really think it's going to be a down year for McLaurin. I mean, Jaden Daniels and him, I don't think at this point, not necessarily a good fit. So when we get to wide receiver, it'll definitely be an interesting, conversation around a guy like Scary Terry. What do they call him? F1. I just found out about this a couple weeks ago, F1. So, what you want to do with him, I think, is a big question just because it has not looked good between those two. And then the hard one for me, and I know he's going to be low owned, is Trevor Lawrence. I just think he's just not very good. I mean, he's not very good. And we talked about it all last season. The upside was he's good for 15 fantasy points, and you rarely see a ceiling game from him. I mean, you rarely see it. Hasn't been great so far this season. Tough spot in Buffalo. I don't know. He's the one that I could just say, you know what? He's still going to get some, and that is the one thing. Yes, he's going to be low owned, but he's still going to get a significant amount of ownership. He's probably ends up somewhere 10, 11, 12, 13, 14%, somewhere in that range. So when I build my teams, I could potentially just not play him. I don't think he's good. I think the spot is tough. We'll see. I mean, we'll see. But it wouldn't be. I'm not going to have an overweight approach on Lawrence. If I do play him, it'll probably be below the field, and that would just be to kind of get everything else to work. But I think you're looking at. I really do think Allen and Burrow probably come up a little bit higher than Jaden Daniels. Now that we talk through this, just because of the pass catchers with Allen and Burrow, the guys that you can play. If you play Burrow, you have, T. Higgins, you have Jamar Chase, the premier wide receiver on the slate. So I think Allen and Burrow probably separate themselves a little bit. Then there might be a little bit of a gap to Daniels and a significant gap down to Trevor Lawrence. But again, you can definitely make the case for all 4 of these guys on a small 2-game slate. I just really don't like Lawrence at all.
Yeah, and someone brought it up too earlier, but there's 2 pretty good totals here if both the games equal, and that's another way to get different on these slates is play 7 guys from one game and just move the other 2 off the other one. Just hope you pick the right spots. It's just another thing that you can do. People won't necessarily always overstack one. They'll just try and pick a couple of pieces from all of them, and they think I got more of a cash or optimal style lineup. We're like, okay, I can get the 2 best from this side, 2 best from that side. Only really like one guy on that team, and then 3 Bills or something. You know what I mean? That's how they'll set it up. So I agree there. I do agree also too on the Josh Allen steam. People are just going to have the money, and when they are comfortable moving down or leaving it, they're going to go back and spend it again because they're going to well, I could just leave it, or I also could just take this guy up to Josh Allen. So whoever it ends up being. So agree on that. The only thing I'll say, and it works for Jaden Daniels too, so it still does make it tough on the T-Law side of things, but I say this all the time, and we're obviously promoting a ton of college football now. We have a great college football product, great team behind it. Degenerate 75 running the stuff. Our guy Bill, the rest of the team putting it all together. Lots of good people in the Discord taking care of the members. But in college football, you play Superflex. And the benefit of that is you play quarterback versus quarterback in a lot of cases, right? You get that setup. So you can't do that on these slates, but remember that is the correlation. So if Josh Allen is having a huge game, there's a chance it's because Trevor Lawrence is somehow sticking in it with his guys, or he sets it off early and so on and so forth. Maybe works better for Jaden Daniels because I do think it'll go Allen, then Burrow, then Daniels, then T-Law, but we'll see how it shakes out when ownership comes out. But I do think Daniels that can work for as well. So if the steam comes off Daniels to Allen, it makes you like Daniels a little bit more as well because he can do it with his legs. He can do a lot of things where he can also just run into another guy and be out for the game if we're talking injuries. But he's got to learn to slide. That's one thing, but definitely it's interesting.
Yeah, one other point I wanted to bring up because it just reminded me as you were talking through it is the quarterback position this year and the low numbers that we see in the low fantasy output. So even looking at this 2-game slate where they do have decent totals, like 17 could be the winning score at quarterback. Like that could be the highest scoring quarterback on the slate. It would not be surprising at all. Look at it last week with Josh Allen. They smoked the Dolphins, and he put up 9 fantasy points because they didn't need to do anything. They just didn't need to do it. So that's one other thing to keep in mind when building teams tonight.
And I also think one other thing, just quickly, the Jaden Daniels side of it is that I know that there's, Brian Robinson and Eckler. There's Terry McLaurin, Zach Ertz, whatever. I don't think people are using very many Commanders on this slate. Like once the ownership actually shakes out, like I said, people will be happy just to leave Commanders completely off their lineup. So again, imagine when you build just a Daniels McLaurin stack or a Daniels McLaurin Ertz, fill the rest out with Bills and Cincy. You'll feel chalky, but you have a stack and a full lineup on that side of three guys that is already so unique. And in the end, when it wins and someone goes, oh, they just played all the chalk. No, they played a bunch of chalk because everyone's chalk on these slates. And they played the stack on the side that nobody was on or way less people. Again, everybody's playing something, but in general. So wanted to bring that up. I'll go to you title in a second, but the realist came through, got on that, said, I'll get the logo up. Ross said too, do I need to fix that? The R is cool, but the ship, yeah, we definitely notice the SHIPIT logos when we're going through. So I would definitely recommend it. If you want it, shout out to our guy, Trevor Bryan, SHIPIT logos. We're talking getting your logos fixed up and set up. Our guy, TB, man, he gets it done in the Discord for us. And then Nades, he got the logo. He just naturally pops up. So shout out to those guys. Title, your thoughts at quarterback. What do you got?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of the stuff you said. I think it's Josh Allen, Burrow, the ownership projections we're having. I do think Daniels gives not a distant third, but I think it's clearly T-Law. We have him at 6%. And if it's 6%, I'm in. 6% on a 2 game with a million different receiving options that are all be relatively low-ish owned. So I'm definitely in on that. And you can jam chalk a lot easier elsewhere. The Daniels stuff, a lot of the reasons why I like him the same as you. As you showed week 1, he has that 30-plus point upside because of his legs in any game script, plus 145 to score. But more importantly, people just aren't playing Commanders outside of Terry McLaurin. You can play Daniels naked on the slate. You can also play him and then not play him with Terry. Yes, it definitely feels gross, but Zach Ertz, we talked about last week. Don't mind him. He'll be very low owned. The Luke McCaffreys. I saw our man Hebrew right up the top said Noah Brown season. I think he's wide receiver 3 this week. His snap count went up last week. They brought him in after they traded Dotson. I think Noah Brown at 3%. He falls in the box. That's the stuff you'll see up top, a solo shipper there. So a guy that'll be on the field, him, McCaffrey. You can play F1, Terry, of course, as well, but he's going to be by far higher than the other ones. Again, you can eat all the chalk out, around that. The problem is with me is Burrow, and I've been going back and forth on stuff. It's the nut matchup against the Commanders for sure. But Jamar Chase, we have 90% owned. He will by far be the highest owned, and it's not even close because of the position, because of the salary, the raw points. So if you play Burrow, you're probably playing Chase with him. Then you're picking what? A Higgins or a Gesicki or a Yoshi Voss. Everyone else will be doing that too. The 32% Joe Burrow, 31% play Chase, and then how everyone else mixes in just one of those other guys. Feels like I'm just landing on a more concentrated build structure than I would with other spots. Because you go Josh Allen, and why he is probably one of my he is my favorite. He's minus 140 to score there. But at the highest receiver we have with them, or pass catcher, I'll say, Kincaid 32, Shakir 30, Coleman 11, Samuel 7, Max 6. If he throws a 10, and you can play James Cook with them too. Granted, you can play Jaden Daniels with Austin Eckler. I think is very easy. I don't mind the ETN with Lawrence. I don't love the running backs there as much, though. Chase Brown is a way to play Burrow and get different over Zach Moss. But I do think you can easily play James Cook with Allen. But the pass catchers everyone's scared of, if you get the right pass catchers that fall in the box and it's him through his arm and not his legs, or he just gets one, I think talking through it, Burrow at ownership is probably my least favorite just because I think it gets you in the most concentrated builds. Doesn't have the rushing upside. Lawrence at his ownership, I can easily make a case there. So many pass catchers. Daniels with his legs. And, yeah, Josh for obvious reasons. But it's mainly the pass catchers, the ownership projecting around is what I'm looking at these quarterbacks. And why Burrow I'm struggling with a little bit at 32% or whatever it is.
Yeah, and I think just it's all about how you build. Like I said, tell a story. But that's the other thing. I think when people go Chase, they naturally go Burrow. You can get him into Josh Allen lineups easy. I'm just saying that's the opposite. But if Chase actually has a big day, again, he can also, and Hoop talks about this all the time, when we get to wide receiver, we'll talk about it, where at 7,500 on a 2-game slate, he's also 90%. He's way up there to be optimal based on projection, price, and the fact you have to fill out at least 3, if not 4 spots with a wide receiver because you have a flex as well that you could use one in. So he's just so much more likely to show up either way. So what I'm looking at is different ways. Like if he actually does break the slate where he's needed beyond just he ends up being needed, then it's going to probably be with Burrow. But I think everyone does go the extra layer. You always talk about levels title. People put him in. They can't stop. Now they're like, oh, and I got to get Gesicki in there too because I'm going to triple stack it if Burrow's going to go off, and I'm going to run it back with Terry McLaurin. But why not put a Zach Moss or a Chase Brown into that stack, double Chase with Burrow? Why not use Eckler or Noah Brown as the run back? And then your story is that Burrow is going to be the highest scoring quarterback. Well, now you probably want to see about getting ETN and James Cook in or something where that game is on the ground. You naturally fill out 4 to 5, maybe 6 spots in your lineup without even having to do work. You just came up with a concept, you built it out, and then you said, okay, now I got to fill these last few spots. That's where having something like Shiptimizer comes in. You can lock in that, build 10 lineups. Okay, I hate them all. Let me switch this. Let me go from Eckler down to Noah Brown with more money. Oh, I really like these now. I'm getting an ETN. I'm getting James Cook. I'm getting a couple other, possession receivers that can rack up PPR points. So go with your story, but remember that that's definitely a possibility. And even on the Jaden Daniels side, you could just do something like Jaden Daniels, Noah Brown, or Jaden Daniels, Zach Ertz. You got to fill the tight end spot anyway. If you don't love Brenton Strange or Gesicki, and you don't want to play the most popular in what's likely to be Kincaid, people will probably play 2 tight end. Again, we'll get there later. But just to give an example, that's where you can stop. And again, people will be like, oh, you played all the same dudes as everyone else. Yeah, but I had Jaden Daniels and Zach Ertz as my starting point. That is a massive difference, especially when you get to higher dollar, smaller field, because Josh Allen is going to be so much more popular and steam there like we talked about. And Joe Burrow is going to come in next after that just because people will naturally move there when Chase is 95% on that spot as well. So just little things like that. Hoop, anything else you want to add on quarterback? If not, you could take us into running back.
Yeah, the one point I thought that was pretty good was the Burrow stuff. Title talking about that. It's like what percent of teams, the Joe Burrow teams, have Jamar Chase in there? It's going to end up being like
99.
just like an astronomical amount. So it's like when you play that pairing, it gives you less options in terms of like ways to get different. So I think that is one interesting talking point because
just one quick talking point back though is. It can't be 99% because Josh Allen is getting played easily on this slate. If Chase is 90% and Allen's 30, it's just not possible.
99% of Burrow lineups will have Chase, I'm saying.
Overall, okay, I know what you're saying.
Yeah. So if someone's playing Burrow, what percent of those teams have Chase in there? It's got to be in the 90s. It's in the 90s for sure. If Chase is going to be the highest owned dude, it's extremely high. So one way to go about doing Burrow teams differently is just to leave a ton of money on the table. Just go down from Chase to Higgins or something like that. I mean, but yeah, it's just you miss out on an opportunity to get different for sure. Burrow Chase again. Could it be Burrow Chase tonight? 100% it could be. I mean, 100%. Burrow's relatively cheap. Chase is by far the highest upside guy on the slate. It could be that you need both of them, but I think it is an interesting talking point. Running backs, I think a lot of solid plays. I mean, you got viable plays from every team. James Cook looks like the most stable for sure. He'll be the highest owned. Again, they're willing, if they get a lead, to just pound James Cook, and they're favored by 6, right around 6 tonight, 5.5 or 6. If they get a lead, it's going to be a lot of James Cook, and I think he's a phenomenal play. ETN is interesting just because he's more expensive, projected lower, but more expensive at $7K. Again, salary is not going to be a huge factor. That's the one annoying part. I wish they kind of would have bumped these guys up a little bit. You're going to be able to play whoever you want. So I was going to say, ETN being the most expensive has a chance to go, a little, not overlooked, but come in a little lower. It's just not the case because it's going to be easy to play him. I really like the Washington guys, Robinson Jr. and even Eckler. Daniels, I think, is going to have a problem throwing the ball down the field this year, and we've seen it so far. That's why I don't really like Terry McLaurin. We'll talk about that at the next position. So in lieu of playing Terry McLaurin, which he's probably going to be in my player pool, but I'll be underweight on McLaurin, probably just get overweight on these running backs, Brian Robinson Jr. and even Eckler. I mean, it's not a comfortable play, but man, if they're trailing, both these guys could see a lot of dump offs, and both had solid targets in the last game. I mean, Brian Robinson Jr. had 3 targets, brought them all in, had 4 the week, or no, he did not bring them all in. 3 targets and 1 reception. I'm not worried about the 1 reception. He had 3 targets last week, 4 targets the week before. And you know what you're getting with Eckler, 4 targets, 3 targets, and brought all 7 in so far this season. So I think both these guys are strong plays. Zach Moss is clearly the guy in Cincinnati. They're favored by 7.5. They get the lead. He could easily find the end zone. So I think there's 5 viable running back plays. ETN's probably my least favorite. And I like the fact that it's showing a pretty high ownership percentage on him, because I will most likely be underweight on ETN. We're showing 45-ish, so probably right around 50% on ETN. He's the guy that I can just be out on and leave money on the table too in those teams. Go from have a team that you like, go from ETN down to Brian Robinson or down to Austin Eckler. I think it's totally fine. I'm going to be underweight on a lot of the Jacksonville stuff. I mean, Buffalo at home, primetime spot. A team that's willing to win ugly games now. I mean, we saw it last week. They got a lead and just ended it with the Dolphins. So they can just muddy up these games in a hurry. So probably be underweight on a lot of Jacksonville stuff, but those other 4 running backs look really, really good to me. And so, again, one way to do it a little different, build a team with ETN and then just go ahead and drop down to either Robinson, Moss, Eckler, and then you're leaving at least $1,100 and more in those other scenarios.
Yeah, Title, I'll get your thoughts in a second. Just go back to it for 2 seconds on the quarterback stuff. I guess that was one thing I was going to say about the Burrow stuff is, I would still have interest in that, because now you know exactly how to build your lineups differently when you're playing Burrow. Again, if Burrow's 35% owned of the field, let's just say that's the number, you could have 30% Burrow, but have very small percentage with Chase, and now you're actually way overweight on Burrow lineups. Sans Chase, you've got the ones without him. So it's like, that's how you get there with that one. So I still have interest in that. And I guess I'll go to Title on this, but the Jags ownership stuff still excites me on all of it. I know it's the opposite. If the Bills are this high powered top team, why are they 5.5 at home? Like, they should just smash these Jags. They suck. Smash them. But it reminds me of yesterday. And I think, Title, you had this call very early on the show yesterday. It worked out very nicely. Was everyone's playing Kamara because what he did the week before. James Cook will probably be 80 to ETN's 40 or 50. While he is a 40 or 50% on running back, he's almost half of James Cook in the exact opposite spot like Barkley was to Kamara yesterday. And we're now taking it down from 13 or 12 or whatever it was yesterday to 2 games. It matters that much more. It gives you that much more leverage even at that number. So I at least still have some interest. I think the backups for those 2 teams like Tank and Ray Davis are actual potential guys. I mean, all the backups are in play on this slate. It's not, again, we're not here to, at least me, I'm not here to give you special conviction play number 1. It's concepts, ideas, and theories you can apply to your lineups to try and give yourself a shot to get to the top. So my take on the ETM one is pretty strong. I think that's on an opposite side thing. Makes a lot of sense to me there as one way to leverage it. And then I think obviously the Washington guys fit into that mold as well. I liked what Nade's brought up, just another thought process example. Nobody has this. Like Daniels, B-Rob, and Ertz, nobody in the sense of very little. And you just cover off if the Commanders are in it and they're near the end zone, that could very easily just be what they target. It's either B-Rob or Daniels that run it in probably, or they make a pass. And if it's not to Terry McLaurin, who's the chalk of the chalk on that team, you could see it go to Ertz. So yeah, going with those running backs in those type of builds as well. I think, Title, maybe people will go to some backup running backs just because they saw it win the Millie that last time, and that'll get brought up a lot today. Your thoughts?
Yeah, the backup running. The thing is, we have the 3 of the 4 teams. So I'll start with Buffalo because I'm not really going to play any Ray Davis. He's plus 425 to score. Almost all of his work last week was in the 4th quarter when it was getting blown out. With all that being said, he's going to be really low owned. It's a 2-game slate. Random things happen. That is how you win all the money. I just think there's enough ways. Like I'll be Jacksonville. I'll go right to Jacksonville. Yeah, he'll probably be ETM. I'll be most overweight to him out of anybody on the running back position. I'm just going to be embracing Jacksonville today because of ownership, hoping that – Jackson. I still think Lawrence is a solid quarterback. Gabe Davis, we've seen do it. Brian Thomas, I think, is good. I think they're actually solid football team. So I'm going to be embracing them. I'm going to be playing a good amount of ETN. I do not mind Tank Bigsby if you want to go that route, though. And very chalky lineups to get difference. Other side, I talked about James Cook. In a vacuum, he's the best running back play. He might be 75% owned. I might have 80% James Cook. Like, he's minus 120 to score. He's by far the best 5.5 point favorites. Coming off a massive game, can catch passes. There's nothing bad to say about him. But when you start plugging in Chase, Cook, X, Y, Z, you're getting in the same builds. Again, you can play Cook, you can play Chase. Enough spots to get different. Just know he will be mega chalk. Commanders, Brian Robinson's look good, man. Like the eye test for me this year, the running scheme or the running ability that Jaden Daniels has keeps the ends down there, makes linebackers. The defense has to focus on the pull every time they give it to Robinson too. I love it. So even though they're dogs, 28% roughly, 2 touchdown upside, I'm in big nades. And then Eckler. And so people are asking, and I'll finish this up quick and then I'll throw it back to you. But I don't know can you play Moss and Chase Brown in the same lineup? Yeah, you can. You can do anything you want. Can you play Robinson and Eckler? Sure, you can. Is the likelihood of that being on the winner? If I'm playing Moss and Brown together, I'm not playing Burrow. I'm probably not playing Chase. I'm telling myself that they got all the touchdowns. They just ran the football down their throat all game. So you can in stories like that, but it's not my favorite thing to do. It will be different, but there's other ways I prefer getting different. So Eckler, he's in play pass catching. If they're down, they're trailing. Could see a lot of dump offs. Robinson, if they're ahead, I like both of them. And then other side, Zach Moss, Chase Brown. Man, 50% Zach Moss. I don't love that. That's probably my least favorite running back play on the board if it has to be 50%. But all these Bengals are getting so much ownership. I think I'm going to hope it's a Yoshi Voss, a Gesicki, maybe a T. Higgins, because it's probably going to – Bengals are going to score some points. Maybe Chase Brown too. If all of it's going to go to Moss and Chase, I think I just want to hope it's probably not those two, or at least only one of those two get there. So,
well, I think the reason we're seeing the big numbers, ownership numbers on the running backs, a lot of people end up going 3 running backs today. Like when you go in there and just look at the value and the price tags, people are going to want to be on these running backs. You go to wide receiver, a lot of uncertainty, not many, standout value plays. So I think we see a lot of 3 running back lineups today. And that obviously is the reason why these ownership numbers look so big on these guys.
Yeah, I'm going to touch on that in a second. This one first, though, everybody sucks. So many. Jawan Jennings sucked until he dropped 50 yesterday. It's this is how this works. You're talking about Brenton Strange, Zach Ertz, Mike Gesicki, and Dalton Kincaid. And yes, we're not idiots. We do this for a living. We know Dalton Kincaid is far and away the best tight end there. So does everybody else. And that's why he's going to be owned that way. If you need money and you're punting a position, the absolute best position to do it at is a onesie position, where there's only going to be 4 to 5. I mean, even if these backups get in, a Dawson Knox, that could be enough that they score a touchdown. That's it. So if you're punting it off, we saw lineups score 225 points yesterday with a 0 from Greg Dulcich. That's the position to punt off and be done with it. So it actually doesn't matter who sucks or who's good. It's what does the rest of your lineup do? And
he's on the field. He had 10 points last time too. You can be as bad as if he's on the field. The coach 10 and 6 DK points. That could be enough today.
Terry McLaurin is 50. That's like yesterday. Guess what? Devontae Smith. It sucks he got injured. We know how good the spot was, but it's just a prime example. Not even the injury of Ayuk, just bad game. These guys that you think are the best can have a bad game, and then all of a sudden Goddard has 30 points or something. That could just be Ertz has 16 on this slate. Not a Goddard type number, nothing like that, but 16 could break the slate.
And if you want to talk about dusty tight ends, I mean, you have to look no further than Travis Kelce. So all that sort of talk needs to be pushed towards Kelce.
Yeah. He's another one. Shout out to our guy Chunky Blue, always in here supporting. Appreciate you. Says, do the defense matter? No. We'll get to that at the end. But you can literally plug in anything and you can play it against your quarterback. Whatever you want to do with defenses is fine. I was going to say, though, back just my stuff to round up the running back, I also don't believe Zach Moss's number. I know there's 7.5 points favorites at home, but when we know Chase is going to be 90, we know Burrow is going to be 30 to 35, somewhere in that kind of range. And you can stack them up together. You can play Burrow, Moss, and Chase. I'm fine with it. I'm just saying I don't think Moss's number stays ownership-wise where it's at. I think it will come down a little bit. I believe in James Cook. I even think ETN could get steamed a little bit, to Hoop's point earlier. I think people are going to be more comfortable with Brian Robinson Jr., and maybe even a little bit more Eckler that brings a little bit of that up and Zach Moss down. But to our guy, GK Pfeiffer's point, love this slate for DFS. He's probably just getting here late. He says, can't wait to hear y'all's take. But it's definitely a spot where we usually have 2-game slates that are clean cut. This one, we have a lot more angles that we can play it from. So, Title, I'll go back to you. Want to talk about wide receiver maybe?
Wide receiver. Let's just go team by team. I think it'll be easier. Jacksonville side. Kirk, Brian Thomas, Gabe Davis. Really, really easy. You don't have to worry about anyone else. Ownership-wise, we have 42% Thomas, 25 Kirk, roughly 25 Gabe Davis. All of that feels really good, especially if you're playing Lawrence, who's 6% or whatever. I'm in on all of them. Brian Thomas has looked like the best, the biggest play upside rookie. He's also 4,900 where Kirk's 52, but at almost double the ownership. Really no strong lean there. Kirk's been awful. Hey, it's only a 2-week sample. I'll buy into a 25% Kirk on a 2-game slate. So I like them all. You can play 2 of them, even if you don't play a Trevor Lawrence and stuff. Josh Allen, Keon Coleman, and then just go more Jags on the other side. Thinking Josh does it with his legs, puts up a nuke. Jags receivers keep it close. So many ways you can go. Jacksonville, it's those 3 and no one else. Buffalo side, kind of the same stuff where it's really hard. Like, there's Josh Allen with his legs. There's James Cook. There's Kincaid at tight end. And then it usually goes Keon Coleman, Shakir. Yes, you can play Curtis Samuel if you want. Yes, you can mix in Matt Collins if you want. Really just large field stuff. Shakir, we have 30. Coleman, 11. Keon Coleman, definitely my favorite play. Probably one of my favorite receivers then at this number, 11%. He was on the field a ton. I mean, he's coming off a 0, but week 1, the usage was good. It wasn't bad in week 2. Rookie, I like Keon Coleman a lot at that number. And again, is it crazy if he somehow outscored Jamar Chase today? I don't know. Do you want to make that 1v1 pivot to win $500K instead of winning $45K or whatever it is? I think he has a better chance than that. So little things you can always do at the wide receiver position, leaving money. Buffalo, probably just Shakir, Coleman mainly for me, though. Again, Allen stuff, you can mix in the other ones to get crazy. Washington, if you're playing Daniels, almost everyone will be playing Terry McLaurin. He will be popular, 5,700. Noah Brown, Luke McCaffrey, the other 2 guys I will take shots on. Pretty much just Jaden Daniels lineups. It is really, really gross. This is the thing. If you're playing a 100-man tournament, I'm not playing those bums. Playing a 2K tournament, maybe one of them. This is the 88,000 people contest. Those guys fall in the box once. We just saw Juju do it and win people 200K. So Brown and what's his nuts? Luke McCaffrey, I'm fine with. Bengal side, everyone is going to be playing Jamar Chase, rightfully so. The T. Higgins stuff, yeah, if we don't hear any coach speak, I think I'm going to be in on, I mentioned it before, T and Yoshi Voss. Like Chase, Moss are getting a bunch of the stuff. T. Higgins is playing. You assume they're not going to rush him back if he's not ready to go, especially with all these injuries we've seen early. He could easily outscore Jamar Chase. Yoshi Voss, a lot of hype in preseason, has played pretty well this year. Bengals will run plenty of 3 receiver sets. I'm going to be totally in on him too. When I play Burrow stuff, I'll really be looking at the Yoshis, the T. Higgins. I think I'll throw it back to you on this, Tambo. If I am going Burrow, maybe that's where I just completely overstack, because I don't see myself not playing Chase too many times in Burrow stuff. But I think you go Chase, Yoshi Voss, Higgins. Burrow throws for 350. The other game busts a little bit. I think more I'm talking about it. That is how I'm going to play Burrow stuff.
Yeah, and one thing I'll say quickly just about a couple spots here, because I'm not going to, you did a great job, Brown, and I'll let Hoop talk. But the couple things. One, I don't believe Yoshi Voss just goes away. Like, the guy's been playing just fine for them. They already hyped him up. Why does he just, again, 2 things, and flipping that, the other side of that game, how does Terry McLaurin just become good all of a sudden? He's been horrible. Like, they still have to get him the ball. It's the same quarterback. It's the same setup. They're going into Cincy. Tough spot to play in. They are big dogs, 7.5 points. Even if they cover whatever, it's like, it's not hard for me to ignore McLaurin if he's going to be 40 to 50% owned. Usually when people go back to the well on someone or they're looking for flop leg or something, that literally means there's no ownership on the guy because they've sucked, and so everyone's done with them. This guy sucked, and everyone still wants to play him. So to me, I don't believe in that, and I don't believe in the Yoshi Voss just going away completely because T. Higgins comes back. Will they want to mix Higgins in? Yes, but Yoshi Voss has still done his job, and now his angle just gets cleared up that much further on the field. I know there's talks about Jermaine Burton and all this stuff too. Sure, they're there too. I'm just saying with Chase and Higgins out there, a guy like Yoshi Voss should be even more open. So that's really the way I would look at that. We'll see how it actually shakes out, but that's a couple thoughts from my end. I guess the last one, Jacksonville, Gabe Davis revenge game, yes, but like Christian Kirk is still a very good receiver. Brian Thomas has been the best for them so far. it looks like early ownership is Brian Thomas Jr., but I think there is a lot of people talking about Davis and stuff going on there. So, I mean, there's definitely options on all these teams, but some things I believe and don't believe in. Where are you at with it?
Yeah, I think you guys have done a phenomenal job talking about this position. A lot of similar thoughts from myself here. The Jaguar stuff's very clear. I mean, Kirk, Gabe Davis, Brian Thomas, all fine options, all guys I'll have exposure to. If I had to pick one, because I'm not playing a lot of Trevor Lawrence or potentially fading him, I'm just going to probably side with the cheapest one, Gabe Davis. Revenge game, all that stuff. He looked pretty good. Big time upside at 4,200. But again, I'll have exposure to all three, and you don't really need to worry about the rest. The reason I like Josh Allen stuff the most is because it's just so easy to get like a little bit different with any. If you pair him with any of these pass catchers, like who's the highest owned pass catcher right now? Who's between like Coleman, Shakir, like what is their own?
Coleman probably, but Kincaid will be the thing. They'll all be in check at the end of the day. They're all
and that's the thing. Like, and we'll talk about tight end in a minute, but man, to me, Kincaid like seems like a phenomenal.
Oh, Shakir, my bad.
Shakir will be the highest owned. Yeah, sorry. But again, it's not like a crazy number or anything on a 2-game slate. So like, there's many different things you can do. Mac Hollins at 32. He's had red zone looks this year. I know he's got the one touchdown. Like, I'd play that. And I'm going to throw one name out there, and it's absolutely fucking disgusting, and it's so gross. But they did try hitting him with the bomb. To no one's surprise, it did not fucking work. Like, it never works when MVS gets a bomb, but they did try throwing one to him. He's 3,100 to 2-game slate. If by some act of God he happens to catch the ball and go into the end zone, like, he's gonna be on the winner. So that's just like a dart throw in Josh Allen stacks for me. Like, I'm going to take a couple chances on MVS. I mean, it was a deep bomb, but again, the guy, he's like, 2% to catch a deep bomb dating back to like his time in KC. It's like terrible. He's so bad. And teams continue to pick this guy up for some reason. Like, I don't get it. Like, how is he still in the NFL? He's done nothing ever. But again, Josh Allen is willing to take chances, and he could, try it again. And it's probably going to be unsuccessful, but his ownership has to be like 0 on the slate, I assume. What is MVS? Like, no one's going to play him.
Just
nothing.
You.
Yeah, 0. So just who? So it's a dart throw play in tournaments for Josh Allen teams. Commander stuff is, I don't get the Terry McLaurin thing. I hope that number is right. I hope like he's showing up in 40 to 50% of lineups today, because the connection with Jaden Daniels has not been good, and I just don't see it improving. Like, I just don't understand how it's Terry McLaurin that you need on the slate. If it is, cool. I probably lose money today, and guess what? That's fine. I'll move on to the next thing, the next slate, whatever I'm doing. I'm not crossing Terry McLaurin out of my player pool, but I am guessing, I haven't built teams yet, I'm guessing that I will be significantly underweight. I just think there's so many better pivots. Tambo, you talked about Yoshi. Like, I think that's a great talking point. Like, all these guys over McLaurin for me. And again, I'll probably have some just because it's a 2-game slate and, might need it to work, but I am not thrilled with the McLaurin play. I'm thrilled with the ownership, though, because if that is the true number on him, that will probably end up being one of my bigger stands on the slate, underweight on him. Or I don't know, when I build, I could potentially fade his ass. We'll see. I just want to say one thing quick on it, because like, that's the other thing, he does show up at his price and his projection as he's going to be a guy that's involved when you have 4 potential wide receivers that you can put into your lineup. You must put 3, but I just don't believe it when there's, again, it's the numbers of the numbers, but when you have 3 options on the Jags, 3 to 4, if you bring MBS into it for the Bills that can do it. You already got Chase that's showing up everywhere on top of Higgins, Yoshi Voss, the Burtons of the world, Noah Brown, McCaffrey. Like, any of these guys can show up on one play. He just can't be as often. He can't show up as often as what it's saying he's going to show up. So that's why I would bring that up. Go ahead. Back to you. Yeah. And I'm fine with some of the cheaper guys, both Browns, Miami and Noah Brown, 33. So he was inactive week 1, Noah Brown, then hopped in and played, I don't know, a decent amount of snaps and got 3 catches for like 58 yards. So I'd be way more interested in just taking flyers on the cheap Washington pass catchers opposed to Terry McLaurin. And then we'll talk about Ertz when we get to tight end.
We'll do it quick. I got 2 more quick wide receiver thoughts, though. Two quick ones. One is Noah Brown might be everything we wanted Tank Dell to be yesterday. Another former guy from there. He could come out and be the dude that you just need on this slate and be a spot for the Commanders. And the chat brought it up earlier, but I was going to bring it up anyway. We talked about this on the review show earlier and yesterday's show too about with Minshew and chewing into the ownership by playing different stacks along that game. We know Kincaid is going to be popular. We could definitely see a game where the Jags are just trying to get after Josh Allen, and it's just check downs to James Cook, a guy like Curtis Samuel, and Kincaid. And Curtis Samuel is getting no ownership at 4,400. He could pick up like 6 catches for 60 and be great. And you could still have him with Kincaid, and you could use those two in non-Josh Allen lineups and just rack up the point per receptions and whatever yards they get, maybe a touchdown. Or you could put them with Allen, but whatever their ownership is between Allen and Kincaid gets slashed across the board when you pop in Samuel as an option into that. You could pop in James Cook and Samuel and still get different because most are playing Cook or Allen, or when they are playing it together, it's not with Samuel. So you can still play some of the popular options on the slate by then slicing into them with a guy like Samuel. So I just look for little things like that. The chat mentioned it. Thought I would bring it up. Go ahead, Hoop.
Yeah, definitely solid talking points. Just to round it out on the Bengals stuff, obviously we know Chase is going to be very highly owned, but I think T. Higgins is the interesting one. If we get if we get some sort of communication that he's full go, no restrictions, which I think is the case because a lot of times if someone's coming back and there are restrictions, they kind of mention it. And plus the 2-game slate, we don't need to be all that picky. He doesn't need to go out and get 150 and 2 touchdowns. Like if he goes out and gets 5 catches for 60 yards and a touchdown, probably good enough on the slate. So I think he could maybe get squeezed a little bit just because we haven't seen him on the field. I know obviously he's going to have a decent chunk of ownership regardless, but I think there's a chance it's a little bit lower just because of how high the ownership is going to be on Chase and the fact that he hasn't been on the field the first 2 weeks. So I think he could be a key play. Yoshi, and then even Trenton Irwin, I think, is fine. Seen him out there a lot. I mean, yes, the reps are going to come way down without T. Higgins, but $3,500 pass catcher, you don't need to do much. Like three catches, 40 yards and a touchdown would be good enough for a guy like him. So, in a very dynamic position. I mean, a lot of talking points, a lot of different viable options, and kind of where I'm at there.
All right, take us into tight end then, quick, Hoop, just because like I said, not much at tight end. There's stuff to talk about. Defense doesn't really matter as much, so we won't spend time there. But we know Ingram is out, so Brenton Strange, $2,700. We know Kincaid is the most popular, even at 5,300 because salary is not an issue. And then it comes down to Ertz and Gesicki will get some love still, but I think it's going to be more in stacks and stuff like that too. So talk through tight end real quick. Just what do you got there?
Yeah, so the Kincaid thing's a big talking point, for me, definitely. He's going to be the highest owned at the position for sure. But when I look at this slate and look at the pass catchers, to me, he's probably the second best pass catcher on the slate behind Jamar Chase. And, the week 1 wasn't great, but week 2, they got him involved right away. They ended up beating the shit out of Miami and didn't have to pass the ball at all, but he had 4 catches right out of the gate, and it was them actively getting him involved. It wasn't just like, all right, the play's broken, let me throw it up to Kincaid. It was a lot of things like behind the line of scrimmage, just getting him going forward. I think they know he's their best pass catcher, and in competitive games, like if the game's on the line, like I think it's Kincaid that they go to. So very interested in Kincaid. I know the ownership's going to follow, but again, it's a 2-game slate. You can do a lot of different things to get different. Kincaid is definitely a main part of what I'll be doing today. The other guys, like them all kind of equally. Strange, Gesicki, Ertz, I think I'll find. Yeah, someone Ertz is dusty or whatever. Yeah, I mean, he's older. Zachary, it's a 2-game slate, and he has a quarterback that can't throw down the field. Ertz is in the perfect spot for a guy like Jaden Daniels. 4 targets each of the first 2 games and 3 catches, 4 catches. If he finds the end zone, like you probably need him at like 3,500 or what is he, 3,700. So definitely in on Ertz, fine with Gesicki. Obviously a little bit of a bump down with T. Higgins now back in the game. And then the last cheap dart throw is going to be Dawson Knox just because I'm playing a lot of Josh Allen. I want exposure to all the guys that could potentially catch a touchdown for Josh Allen. I think Knox, I've seen him out there in the red zone quite a bit. They'll do double tight end stuff. So Knox is the cheap dart throw type play for me at $3K flat.
Title, anything you want to add on top of that?
Very easy for me. I'm not going to be playing Knox or this Eric All guy. We'll talk on him in Showdown a bit. I'm just playing Gesicki, Ertz, Strange, Kincaid. And I think, to be honest, one of my stands to get different will be I'll probably have the least amount of Kincaid, at least to the field. And I'm totally good dropping Kincaid to any single one of Strange, Gesicki, and Ertz, hoping they outscore him. And that's a way to get different, leaving 2K plus with all the cheese. But Ertz is on the field, or a PPR guy for rookie quarterback as a security blanket. Strange, and Evan Ingram's role, he actually is pretty good player himself. So I can totally see him going, get you 11, 12. Like on the Thursday through Monday slate, I played Brendan Strange in cash games. If he was on the Sunday slate yesterday, he would have been the cheap tight end that people would have played instead of the Dulcich, that, etc. So can make a case there. And then Gesicki, another one of those eye test ones for me. But, man, he looks good. He gets the ball. He turns up field, and he's got some pep in his step. So, yeah.
They keep looking to him in the red zone, too. He has, I don't know what they
got a back shoulder.
Was. Yeah.
So, again, Higgins there might – coming back probably does hurt him a bit, but at ownership, I mean, Kincaid by far will be the highest owned. Again, I'm not playing him, but I do think I'll be the least owned out of all of them, but I'm just playing 4 tight ends.
Yeah, I don't think I like Gesicki as much as everybody does, but I like the other stuff. I'm definitely in on Zach Ertz. I am in on Strange just because the price, like I said, it's also if I'm punting off, I just want to punt for it's the most value at the cheapest price on what could happen. It doesn't really matter. Even if he gets to 25, 30, whatever, it's fine. Like it's $2,700 and I don't necessarily see the tight ends that are breaking the slate. Kincaid could do it. So I'm in on Kincaid. That's the ones that I'm highest on are those 3, Ertz, Kincaid, and Strange, and just leave it at that. And other guys will trickle in, I'm sure. But for the most part, that's the overall look. I think a lot of people are going to waste a lot of money, and it's fine. Like at tight end, like they'll try and make stuff work. I'm seeing Sample in the chat, Knox, all this. May not even be needed, may not even be how it works. So again, anything can happen, 2-game slate. But I'm just looking to, move on the main 3 there and then move around at the other positions. We talked through all the other stuff you can do at those other ones. I'll give a couple more thoughts, though, based on not doing much there is, Commanders D, get overweight. Play them against Chase. You know how many people are hand building today that fit Chase into every lineup they build, or they set the rule in the optimizer that you can't play the D against the flex or something? It's auto set on some optimizers. Play the Commanders D, but play Chase in the same lineup. It's already just somewhat separating you just at that level. No different than the Jags versus Josh Allen. We always talk about that one. That's more common. If you're playing the Trevor Lawrence side, I know Hoop is not high on it, but sounds like Title's with me. If you're playing that, play some Trevor Lawrence with the Jags D. Play those two together. You're double leveraging. Like you're off Allen to the opposite side, and you're saying because of that, it may not even just be that it's a shootout or anything. Let me run down to the next one. And yeah, we talked about Eckler and Robinson in depth at that position earlier. So, not much more to add there. Title, do you have anything on defense? I know it's like, again, you can plug in whatever. I'm trying to combo up some stuff that would be unique to the field where it allows you just to get away with a few more things, even in a large field, since not many people are going that way.
Absolutely love everything you said. I'll add on one thing as well. You can play Jaden Daniels. You can play a chalkier Cincy defense. Jaden Daniels can make a lot of mistakes, running backwards with his legs, taking sacks. He can also still get there on the ground like he showed week 1 without playing the best game, 28 DK points. So Bengals will get ownership. Again, defense, someone said, does it matter for 2 games? No, but it matters when some defense puts up 15 points and everyone else has 5. You unfortunately need them. So not a position I'm Xing anyone. Make a story about why you're playing the defense. I like Jags lowest owned against Josh Allen. I like Cincy even when I'm playing Daniels because they can both get there that way. But you covered it really well.
Yeah, I still spread it out at defense on these slates just like I do on a main slate. Like if you get 25% of each one roughly in the way that sets up, but I am looking at certain angles of little things like Commanders versus Chase. That's a great way to end your lineup when you're already, I'm not necessarily putting like 5 Bengals versus that Commanders D and hoping that works out as much as if it's Chase, one other, Moss, Chase, and the Commanders D. I'm fine with that, right? If you're building on a lineup, but that works out for you. Hoop, anything to add on defense as we round out hour 1 here on the show?
Yeah, anything is good at defense. Like throw all the rules out the window. You don't need to worry about, defense versus quarterback, defense versus your stack. It's all, you got to be thinking one play here. And like the Jaden Daniels example is totally fine. He can still go out there and get 20 fantasy points and throw a pick 6. So it's like, that's how you have to kind of think about it. It doesn't matter. Yes, when you build teams, it's going to be the Bengals and the Bills that show up in the defense at a very high rate because they're not even that much more expensive than the other two defenses. So if you go into any optimizer and don't manually adjust it, you're going to probably be loaded up on Bill. And I did a dry run, and I'll tell you what I got. You're going to end up with a lot of Bills and Bengals. You got Bengals 47%. You got the Bills 35%. I got the Jaguars at 9% of my teams, and then the Commanders at 8%. And that's definitely what's going to happen at defense if you don't go in there and manually change it. For me personally, I will be manually changing it because I want adequate exposure, I think, to all these defenses. I think you can make the case for all of them. Let me just run through, because I just did this real quick. I'll run through what else I got in this dry run. Didn't change anything. Used our projections. 55% Joe Burrow. And that $1,500 gap that we kind of talked about in the opening does show up to definitely play a role if you don't change anything. Then Jaden Daniels, 27%. Josh Allen, 18%. No Trevor Lawrence at all. Just going off the projections. And again, we're showing 6. I think it's going to be probably a little closer to 10 on these 2 game slates. Every quarterback gets a little more exposure than that. So I think it is probably more like a 10 number for Trevor Lawrence, but if you like him, easy to get way overweight. We talked about it at the running back position. So I guess one thing that's interesting, because we like the Washington guys, didn't get much of them at all on this dry run. It's 100% James Cook. It was 95% Zach Moss, and then 60% ETN, 6% Brian Robinson, and no Austin Eckler at all. So that's also a very interesting talking point. Wide receiver, like we talked about, it's going to be Jamar Chase. He's in 100% of lineups. Then Terry McLaurin, 80%. So he probably has a chance to have high ownership on the slate. That's going to be a big thing for me. T. Higgins, 50%, and then Brian Thomas Jr., 46%, Gabe Davis, 31%, Christian Kirk, 15%, Shakir, 15%, then everything else, just little sprinkles of them, not much, nothing significant. So all those Buffalo guys look to be going completely overlooked.
Yeah, and I will say to that one, the defense is for sure a thing. Make sure you're setting that rule. That's all we're trying to say. Yeah. Even if whether you believe they matter or not, like Title said, they do matter when they score the points, but when you're setting it up, make sure your rules aren't set to block you from what could be on the winner. We see it all the time on short slates where it is the defense versus the flex or the quarterback. So just make sure you're not setting against that stuff. And then the other thing too, the more I think about it, and again, I'm not just trying to fade all the chalky wide receivers, but I'm saying we get why Jamar Chase is showing up 100%. And I get why I'll probably play like 75% because I want to have outs to the top if it's not him. And I'm good with that. But looking for uniques, all that type of stuff. But the Brian Thomas Jr. thing is definitely getting steamed up further and further, and he has been the best. Yeah. When we talked earlier, like Terry McLaurin, and I was saying, I just don't see how he all of a sudden shows up. A guy that it wouldn't surprise me that shows up would be Christian Kirk. He's squeezed in the middle. We almost saw it yesterday. I know it didn't pan out, but the Lockett, when everyone's on DK or JSN, but forgets that Lockett is back. We see it with other teams where it's like there's this guy and this guy that people love, but it's the one in the middle. So yesterday, Diggs over Collins and Dell. Everyone's got to figure it out. Gabe Davis revenge or Brian Thomas is the best. Christian Kirk, last year, we were playing him all the time, and he's paying off his contract. He made that contract. Now he's playing good. He just hasn't played good yet. It's 3 games, 2 games in. So little things like that is what I'm looking for when I'm running these rules on the optimizer and popping it up. Kyle's talking about the rules. We have a ton of tutorials over on the site. So if you're a member, go under SHIPIT. It's tutorials. There's videos that are mini ones right on that. And then on top of it, we have a full overview on the top dog thing that you can do. So this is a good question too from our guy. Trevor Bryan said, I'm getting lineups with like $5,000 left over. I'm fine with $45,000. That's fine today. It's $5,000. It's not going to matter in the end of it. You will when we get the puzzle flips over and we see what the actual result looks like, or the optimal or something possibly. But for me, definitely fine with getting lineups 45, 46K today. No problem.
100%. 1 point to add for me, talking defenses. FanDuel, Bengals defense, 3,100. Yeah. The highest projected defense, massive blunder. What are your thoughts if you played, because seeing this makes me want to play more teams. 20 teams, just full Xing the Bengals. Just hope the other 3 teams. I know it's not something you usually do, Tambo, too much, but that's a way to totally get different at a very high variant. The next Jags and Commanders, 3,800. So you have to pay 700 more, 1,500 more to get the Bills. Salary already doesn't really matter on FanDuel anyway. So something I'm looking at. I think I'm going to play a little on FanDuel today, and I might just X
the only
sure.
Yeah, the only reason I would not do that is just because, man, like if it is a defense, it ends up being the reason that like you don't win something. It would just be so painful. So I always just make sure to at least get like a little bit of each, just because I don't want my night to be dependent on what
I'm saying. If I played like 10 teams, I'm not playing 150.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I got you. Yeah, if you're doing 10 or something, 10 or 20, something like that.
But just know, I'm fine getting 0 back. Like if you're out there and like that's not the right way to play. It just I'm playing way more on DK. Let me just make a big stand on FanDuel. At a position like this.
I do want to add on to that, though, because it goes with what a lot of people watching this are doing. And we'll keep the show going anytime there's good content we're putting out. People are liking it. Make sure you hit the like button for us. It helps us out. But I would say, like, that's the whole point. If you're playing 20 lineups tonight, many people are playing 20 or less. You can make stands. That's the whole point. Play lighter, play tighter. I would not be Xing out Jamar Chase because I just think he's that good and you got to fill the spots and you can put him in at least 4 spots that he could fit into. But if you want to X out Terry McLaurin, the Bengals D, and Brian Thomas Jr., and just say I'm taking the next 2 most popular receivers and the most popular D out and just dealing with it. Whatever I get, I get. If those guys break me, they break me. Remember, if it's not them, and it's very possible it's not, you get Noah Brown gets a touchdown. Christian Kirk has a big night. Gabe Davis, you're going to have more chances at that on top of moving off more landmines. To Hoop's point, to what I was saying, is if we were talking like 150, I'll just take a severe underweight stance. And that's pretty much what I'm doing on the main for DraftKings even. I might have 30% of the Jags D on this slate because I actually want to get more of them. I know I'm double leveraging. Nobody's really on the Jags D, and it's because they're all over the Bills. I can literally play them in Josh Allen lineups. So to me, I'm good with that stuff, but that's how I'm looking at it on a large pool of lineups. But on a limited count, I would definitely take those stands. Hoop?
Yeah, I just did a dry run over on FanDuel too, and just to rope back in the DK thing. When I did the dry run on DK at tight end, it was the cheap tight ends. They wanted the cheap tight ends in there. Kincaid, I think, was like 24-ish%, but it was Gesicki and Strange at the top. So I thought that was somewhat interesting. Yeah, the dry run for FanDuel, it's 70% Bengals defense. If you just go in there, run it, don't change anything, they're coming in at 70. Bills at 25. So yeah, that's a good talking point. The Joe Burrow again shows up as the top quarterback, 61%. Josh Allen 25. Jaden Daniels 13%. Running backs the same thing. It's Cook, Moss, Etienne, Robinson, soaking up all the ownership. 100% Cook, 88% Moss, 85% Etienne. Etienne's actually a little bit cheaper over on FanDuel at 7,300. So a little bit of a price break there between the two sites. Wide receivers, the exact same thing over on FanDuel. Jamar Chase, 100%. Terry McLaurin, 63. Higgins, 44. And then you get Shakir, and then all 3 of the Jaguars guys, 25, 21, 20%. And then no one else is really getting ownership. Kincaid shows up 50% over on FanDuel versus only like 25% on DK. Then you get Strange at 28. Zach Ertz around 20, and then you get some sprinkles of Gesicki at 6%.
Yeah, I know this is going to sound, again, Kenny plays very high stakes. He knows what he's doing, and I think he's onto something, but you got to have the balls. Like, I know what you're going to play in the Thunderdome tonight. He's going to be 80% owned in that. So it's a blocker at that point, but if you want to go against it, I would get ETN in on the other side. That's how I would handle it and just hammer it, hope it works out, versus trying to do Ray Davis or doing something different like that. I would definitely
probably go Josh Allen too.
Yeah, you'd have to play Josh Allen for sure.
At least hand building.
Yeah, you'd have to play Josh Allen.
Yeah, and then the other thing too is, they were making fun of Trevor talking about this. Someone said, Trevor's drunk. All that. I mean, I get they're just making fun in the chat, but there will be very, very good DFS players tonight that cap at 49,000. There will be very good DFS players that cap at 48.5. Like, you can literally just do that as a way to get automatically unique. And then you can play the projections. You can play the correlations you want. You can do anything you want at that point since you're already going to be covered. So for me, I just would say, I think a lot of people out there just build on the toilet, are listening to this at work, pressing pause and putting in a few plays that we say, and they get some, but they do what Hoop said earlier. They go, oh, well, now I can upgrade this guy. Now I can upgrade this guy. On a 2-game slate, it's not an upgrade. It's just they cost more because there has to be a salary on them. It doesn't mean they score more. It was 50 to 9.8, 49.8 to 9.8 for Jawan Jennings versus the guy that just held out and got paid a massive contract in Brandon Ayuk, and he outscored him by 40. 2 games now. you could do anything you want. So there is no upgrade or better on paper or on the results until we find out what they are. So that's the key. It's just on paper. It's fake.
Yeah. And you want to be a little uncomfortable with your lineups, little uncomfortability for sure.
Maybe I got to start building my teams on the toilet, change something around.
No, we're early in the season, my friends. We're early, but I will say this. Maybe he was talking about his typos. Actually, now that's so funny, but it came to a good talking point for the people, so I'm good with that. I did a dry run. Let's move on. Let's go to Showdown. We're an hour and 10 minutes in. I kind of want to just hammer this out, but we want to cover it. And I did a dry run hoop on the Showdown game, which is Commanders Bengals. And right now we're getting at the captain, Joe Burrow. Again, like our projection on him is just popping him no matter what. So it's him. It's Jaden Daniels. It's quarterback night at captain over here on this slate. Jamar Chase, Zach Moss, and then it gets into like the cheapies, but it's not really going to be high. So it's really Burrow, Daniels, Chase, and Zach Moss are what we're seeing the most of at captain. We'll start at the captain slot.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to get excited about a lot on the Washington side. I mean, you have Jaden Daniels. Obviously, we liked Brian Robinson. We liked Austin Eckler, but man, can you really make the case for them in captain? I suppose you can. For me personally, I'm going to like just more of the Cincinnati stuff. Quarterbacks are tough. Like the non-running quarterbacks are tough, man. We've seen so frequently this season where they just don't do enough. You had the good call the last slate with Aaron Rodgers. It worked out well there, but I think it's going to be far and few between where we see these non-running quarterbacks be the guy. I mean, passing touchdowns are way down this year versus previous seasons. So that's one point of hesitation. And if it's going to be Burrow, that's the most popular in the captain spot. Like I'm fine, going Chase, Moss, Higgins. I just don't think I want to get too crazy on the slate in the captain. Like, Jaden Daniels, Jamar Chase. I'm assuming Higgins probably gets squeezed a little bit in the captain. People, I just don't think are going to be super excited to play him. McLaurin is just a clear fade for me in the captain. I won't be doing that. Maybe some Brian Robinson Jr. As much as I like Eckler, I just think there's a true cap. As much as I like him on the 2-game slate, I just think there's a cap to him in terms of what production he can have because he's not on the field a ton. So probably be like Brian Robinson Jr., Jaden Daniels, Burrow, Chase, Moss, kind of what I'd be looking at. Stick to those 5 or 6.
Yeah, it's tough. Actually, Title, he makes a good point. Like that is the one thing, as good as it is to help out the 2-game slate, it makes the Showdown slate a little bit more tricky because you don't feel very comfortable with Robinson or Eckler because if they eat each other's lunch or if it goes a different route. I guess the only thing I could say is, again, back to kind of my defense point earlier, I'll flip it now to captain and Showdown, is I'll probably just take an underweight stance to Burrow because it's just then I'll naturally get more Chase. I'll naturally get some Higgins. If my guy Yoshi Voss pops up in there again, I just got a thing with him today. I think I could put him up top. And then the other side, it's, Jaden Daniels is a running quarterback that we talked about. It's whether or not he runs into a wall and gets his head knocked off, I don't know, but we can play him up top for sure. So it's tough to get outside of those main guys there. What's your thoughts at the captain position for this one?
Thinking, the exact same as you guys. It really does like a Luke McCaffrey and Noah Brown. Like we're talking some of these for 2 games, but the 2-game slate is almost double the size as the Showdown. 47,000 people, if I remember correctly, in this Bengals-Washington game, 88,000 on that. So it's not, most of these Showdown slates we've talked about so far, 100K people to 200K people. I think you don't have to get as crazy now in stuff like this. And for me, captain's easy. Jaden Daniels, by far my favorite. All of his rushing upside, whether they lose by 21 or win by 21, he has outs to get there. And I really don't like anyone else on that side much. And then I'm going to go Chase, Higgins. Higgins is by the lowest owned, at least what I'm expecting at captain, that I'm going to be most overweight on. Just hoping he's fully good to go. We know T. Higgins has all the upside in the world that way. So Daniel's my favorite. Then I like Chase, Higgins, Moss, Burrow, and after that, pretty much nothing. But I'm with you. I do like Yoshi Voss as well, so maybe I should get a little captain. But I like him more in the 2-game.
Yeah, Burrow's on main slates. I think it's 6 of the last 70 slates or something that he's been the winning quarterback in Millie Maker winners. But again, it's just an added note. So just looking at it here, I was trying to see if I had anything else different to add on. But, man, it's like Burrow could get up there. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But Burrow, Chase, Daniels, Moss, and then it gets pretty tight after that, man. I just don't think I'm going to have very much of other captains. Like I might even scale back on my Yoshivas and just use him on the 2-gamer to separate there. I don't know. Like if I like him there. If I like him there, though, I should like him here because now we're down to just 1 game. But it's like also the setup of how everybody's going on that one, like how you're overstacking. I think I'll just end up with more of them there. So for me, I'll decide. We'll have it up. The slate pen will be up on the site as usual and all covered. Hoop, anything else you want to add for the showdown slate? We're going to have full coverage over on the site.
Yeah, we'll have full coverage for sure. I'm just way more excited for the 2-game slate. I love those 2-game slates. So I'm going to have some showdown stuff, but my main focus is definitely going to be getting it right on that 2-game slate for sure. But again, all our content is starting to go up. It'll be up nice and early for you guys. It's, one thing that's we made a commitment to all our members and future members. We get our content up nice and early, so you're able to digest it, not sitting around all day kind of waiting to see when we get our stuff posted. It gets up early. Get in the Discord, chat with our community, and get the main goals. Obviously, get those SHIPIT Nation logos to the top of the leaderboard, and we've been doing a hell of a job at it so far this season. Looking to continue on with that.
Yeah, 100K winners in week 1 and 2. Nothing in week 3 yet. A couple 50K in baseball. Our guy Kenny, who was in here earlier, congrats to him, by the way. Forgot to mention it. Kenny said bingo on both those comments when we talked about Allen and ETN with not going to Cook and him being a little bit of a trap there. He got a fantasy racing world championship seed. He's got all the way to the finals in Charlotte. So congrats to him getting through all the play down rounds and getting a team through. So got a great community over at SHIPIT Nation. If you want to be a part of it, it's easy. Go to shipitnation.com, join the nation. The month you can get all sports, Shiptimizer, everything for less than $100. If you want just football, it's $64 with Shiptimizer, $54 without. Get everything that you need and you're locked in. I mean, it's less than $2 a day essentially, and you get it all. So I would check it out. Go over there, at least for the football package. Title, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No. The last thing quick on Showdown, it looks like for the cheapies, it's going to be cheap tight ends. Eric All, like the 3rd-string Cincy tight end, got some snaps. And you got, he's min price 200. You got Drew Sample, 1.6K, the 2nd tight end. The Burton receiver who got that big play, 1K. And then Zacchaeus, Dehemy Brown, Luke McCaffrey, all those cheap Washington guys. Noah Brown, 3-2 as well. So there is enough value on the slate below 3.5K to take shots on. But yeah, again, all the content will be up. No 100Ks yet, Tambo, but hey, some showdown, some 2-game slates, MLB going on still. Next thing you know, NBA and NHL will be back, and then all the sports are going. But excited to win some money, hopefully, today.
It's a great time of year. I'm excited for it. That's going to do it for this one, guys. We appreciate you. Thanks for watching. We did hit over the 8K. Hoop wasn't on with us yesterday, but we crossed 8,000 subscribers on YouTube. So thank you again to everybody out there who's subscribing. If you haven't yet or you're not sure, just take a look. Click the subscribe button. Hit the like on the way out. For Hoop, for Title, and for myself, ToeTagginTambo. Let's ship it.